Welcome to Dynasty Sports Podcast, Episode 4, with a special guest, former teammate from North Dakota State, former NFL linebacker for the San Diego and LA Chargers, Kyle Emanuel. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me, guys.
You're in Nebraska, right?
I am, yes. I got out of Fargo for the first time, and since all of this started, I don't think I've left the state. So I came back, a little Mother's Day and birthday gift for my mom. It's a birthday on Thursday, so back in the homeland.
Awesome. You just at their place right now?
I am. Yep. I'm in the basement of my parents' house shooting this podcast. So it's going to be a fun one, that's for sure.
How your dad put you to work doing a little construction work around the house?
Yeah, it seems every time I come back, they have something going on. So last year around this time I came home, I knocked out some concrete steps on the south side of our house. Now I'm doing some on the east side. So they take advantage of free labor, but I think I owe them that much.
I mean, you were a construction management major. I mean, you're working for a construction company right now. I mean, they got to get the use out of you when you're around.
Company I work for now puts up wind farms, and I work in the office. So I don't know what that teaches you about swinging a sledgehammer, but I'm still pretty capable of doing that still. So like I said, I'm happy to help them out.
You mentioned something about Easton Stick. I was getting changed when you and Cole were talking. What were you saying about Easton?
Yeah, so Easton was back in Fargo for a while when this whole situation, I guess that's what you call it, happened, and it just kind of so happened. We didn't even plan this, but we both were coming back to Nebraska, and he didn't have a car. He lives in California, obviously. So he was going to rent one, and kind of figured out that we were both going back. So he rode with me. So that was kind of cool, actually. It was a cool opportunity. Like, Easton, obviously he was a freshman. I was a senior. He was a true freshman. So he's redshirting. And, I haven't spent that much one-on-one time with the guy. Obviously, know him pretty well, but you don't get 6 hours in a car together with people very often. So it was actually a lot of fun. We had a blast, talked the whole way, and now he's off back to Orange County, not LA, Orange County, to start training. And I think I'm sure we'll get into that, but I think hopefully for him and myself, facilities are opening soon.
Big difference between LA and Orange County. Those Orange County people don't want to. I came down there one time to visit you, and you're like, we're in Southern Cal, we're in Orange County. Make sure you get that right. It's
the orange curtain.
World. Yes, for sure.
Awesome. Well, before we get into kind of your current situation and your time in the NFL, your retirement, all that stuff, I kind of wanted to just take it back a little bit to your playing days as a North Dakota State Bison. One of the biggest mysteries to me, obviously having played with you, there's not a ton, right? We were around each other all the time.
Yeah.
And I was there for your senior season as a graduate assistant. But your productivity from your first 3 years, despite being a 4-year starter, I mean, to your senior season, the first 3 years to your senior season, when you just jumped completely off the charts, and it's almost like everything just started clicking and you just became a complete one-man wrecking crew. Kind of just talk about those first 3 years and then lead that into, obviously there was a coaching change, lead it kind of into that whole deal and your experience, your mindset, and everything like that.
Yeah, well, there's kind of a lot to unravel there, but I guess, when I kind of look at the first 3 years, especially early on, first 2 years for sure, you're just trying to kind of find your way. You're trying to find out where you fit. And we won 4 championships. We had a bunch of talented people, and I never felt like I needed to take that ownership to be the guy that I needed to put up all those numbers. And I didn't necessarily feel that way my senior year, but when you guys left, obviously you had a really good class. You won 3 national championships. Coach Bull leaves. Gene Taylor leaves. We lose basically everyone. We lose all these really good seniors. And there's a lot of talk in the town like, hey, it was a good run. We won 3 national championships in a row. That's awesome, but, it's probably over. And I think, it wasn't just me, but it was kind of our whole senior class. We were like, hey, wait a minute. There's a lot of guys that played a lot of football. We played on 3 national championship teams. We wanted this to go out the right way. And I've told people this before. I kind of just took that mindset into that training. I remember taking like a week off after that 3rd national championship, and I was right back in with Kramer, and Kramer was like, hey, you got to be able to do this for a whole year. I was like, look, I'll be ready. And I kind of just took that mindset into the training. And obviously, Coach Coop did a great job with me for 3 years, but having Coach Kane coming in, just some different stuff, I think just seeing something new. Look, I didn't play defensive end in high school, so just learning new things, that helped me out. And then just being on the field a little bit more. Obviously, we had, Cole and Mike and Jeremy was around. We rotated a lot. My senior year was kind of just like, you're on the field until you can't be on there anymore. And like, kind of like you said, Joey, things just kind of clicked for me, and obviously ended up with a pretty good year.
Yeah. Let me just read. I take little notes before these podcasts. So your first 3 seasons as a starter, you had 16 total sacks. Your senior season, you had 19.5 sacks. Okay, so you over doubled. Your first 3 seasons as a starter, you had 26 total TFLs. Your senior season, you had 32.5 TFLs. You had 49 tackles, was like your highest, I think it was your sophomore year, highest number of tackles in a season, 49. Your senior year, you had 97. So obviously, it clicked.
I didn't know some of those numbers. I knew the sack number. I didn't know some of those other ones.
Yeah, no. So, for me, because I knew that we all knew how good you were, but you weren't getting the recognition until your senior season. And that's when you became first-team All-American, the Buck Buchanan Award winner, which for those of you who don't know, that's the best defensive player in FCS football. I mean, you essentially put the best defensive season together in the history of NDSU. And Cole was your, in the same position as you. Cole can probably elaborate on it a ton, I would imagine. But you were just as talented. Nothing really changed from your standpoint. Obviously, the coaching had a ton to do with it. And Cole, you can probably respond to that a little bit as well.
Yeah, I mean, we have a coaching change. Things change a little bit. With the coaching staff before, I think we were maybe a little bit less aggressive in situations, and we had a really, really deep roster. A lot of guys we could rotate in, and Kyle and I played opposite of each other on the defensive end position, and I think we played off each other really, really well. And not to knock our guy Mike Hardy, but Mike Hardy was your running mate the next year, and maybe wasn't quite as an explosive guy over there. And I think when this coaching staff took over, Jamar Kane said, "Hey, these numbers can go up. I got some talent here, but I maybe only have one guy, and we got to use Kyle in different formations and put him in different situations, and let him go and let him take moves and take chances." And I think a different approach, a more aggressive approach with the coaching staff really helped blossom those numbers. I don't think there's any reason Kyle couldn't put those numbers up the sophomore, junior, or senior year. Just, I think with the game plans we were putting together defensively, we didn't need to go put up those numbers. We had so many guys that could be in places, and that year they had lost so many pieces that I think they relied on Kyle to fill a lot of holes. And based on those stats, you obviously stepped in and played a major role into filling those holes. And it was a really, really fun time to watch you play football, watch you develop, and obviously get the Buck Buchanan and get drafted after.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. I like what you said there. Like, we were, and I guess when I look internally, like I never worried about numbers, and I know people say that, but I never really did. In the senior year, the fact that I played more, like you said, we had a lot of inexperienced D linemen out there. I felt this burden to be a leader, not a burden, but like just a responsibility. Like, I need to be a leader. I need to show these guys how it's done, and I need to bust my butt every day in practice, in the weight room, whatever I'm doing. And the numbers just came, and I can't explain exactly. I gave you my best explanation of why it changed, but once again, it kind of all came together.
What did Coach Kane bring with him in that 2014 season? Because it seemed to me, being a GA, I mean, I always just remember being very overly impressed with his detail and his defensive line technique and, some of the pass rush moves and how he taught. Just kind of go into detail a little bit on, going from Coach Coop to Coach Kane.
I think first and foremost thing Coach Kane did, and I've told this story before to people, and he has too, but not that Coach Coop didn't challenge me. He challenged Cold Nose. He challenged us on a daily basis. But, like, the first time I walked into Coach Kane's office, like I said, we had just won 3 national championships. I was, like, first or second team. I think it was second team all-conference as a junior. I had, like, 7 sacks. I'm thinking, I kind of know what I'm doing. This guy's coming from Wyoming. He doesn't know what's going on here. And I walk in his office, and he's like, you need to have better numbers. Like, this is not good enough. Like, you should be having close to 20 sacks a year. And I'm just like, who is this guy? Like, what is he talking about? So, like, first of all, he challenged me. And that's kind of my personality. Like, if you're going to challenge me, say, like, I'm not doing good enough, like, I always feel like I'm giving full effort. But as soon as someone challenged me like that, that kind of, like, just kind of turned a switch on a little bit for me. So he challenged me there. Like you said, with the technique, I thought he was really good as far as, look, he knew what he liked. He knew what he liked to teach, and he was going to give you those tools, but he also let you just be who you are and what you're good at, and whether what was an inside mover, just kind of letting you go out and play free. I thought, he was really good as a coach. It's like, hey, here's some techniques. Here's some things that I know work, that I've seen work. Use them if you want. Put them in your tool bag. But then just go out there and play. And if you're going to make mistakes, we'll worry about it later.
Yeah, I really like the way he coached defensive line. And like you said, and Billy Turner touched on this last week quite a bit too, was, don't be something that you aren't. What are your strengths? For you, you had a really, really good power rush off of your speed. Your hands were fantastic. So, it's like, use those tools to be the guy you are. And obviously your hustle was maybe one of the best things that, when you turn on your film, that people notice immediately. And I think, Coach Kane did a great job of saying, okay, you do these things really, really well. Let's get great at it. And obviously it worked out pretty well for you.
Yeah. So when we had Carlton on last week, we talked a little bit about his recruiting process, and that's something that, as a former coach, I'm obviously very interested in. And I think a lot of the viewers are. Just talk a little bit about, where you were at, why you chose NDSU, especially coming off of a 3-8 season.
Yeah, it's funny. We talked about Easton earlier. We had this conversation, just talking about, just coming from Nebraska and where we came from. Obviously, he came from a large Omaha school. I came from a Class B, Schuyler, Nebraska, where, we didn't have a lot of football success. But my recruiting situation was kind of interesting. It was mostly, D2 schools, but it was all talk, like, we want to work with you here. We want to keep you in state. We want to do this. We want to do that. Nebraska was giving me a little bit of attention, but again, you look at, and I don't blame them. You look at where I came from, and I'm growing up in a small, like, why would you offer me a scholarship? Why wouldn't you just assume that kid's hopefully going to walk on? And then after that, it was South Dakota State and North Dakota State. And so I don't want to just make it seem like North Dakota State was my only option. I had other options, but that was my only formal offer, them in South Dakota State. But, I came up and I knew they were 3-8. But to me, you look at the history, and you look at, what can you see this program being moving forward? And I kind of knew, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but there's just this feeling like this is not going to last. This 3-8 thing, this is not what this is about. This is not what this community is about, not what this university is about. So you just kind of got that feeling that things are going to get turned around. And I never really wanted to just look at I came from losing before. I wanted to go somewhere where football mattered. And I felt that at NDSU, and whether they were 3-8 or 13-0 that year, it didn't matter to me. I felt like football mattered there. I felt like there was a rich program. There was a rich history there, which, obviously, coming from Nebraska, I saw that at Nebraska, and that's something that also attracted me there. And obviously, a lot of other guys in my class saw the same thing, because we had a really, really good recruiting class. Like you said, coming off a 3-8 year, and it's another one of those things that's kind of hard to explain, but I think everyone kind of felt a similar feeling that I did when they came up to Fargo. Was
it probably a big part of it, your recruiting host that you had that weekend?
I knew that was coming. I knew that. Yeah. Yeah, Cole hosted me. He was not the reason I chose. If anything, he was a detractor. If anything, I came in despite him. But you did your job successfully.
What was the Coach Bowl? Obviously, having a Nebraska connection, was that part that definitely interested you? You know, when you were coming up here and taking visits and talking to the coaches.
Yeah, I think so. You know, just like I said, a kid coming from Nebraska, anyone with Nebraska ties, and if you can relate at all to Nebraska, I mean, it's no secret that's where I wanted to play. That's where I wanted to go. But I wasn't going to pass up a good opportunity, get your school paid for it, have a chance to play at a Division I school and actually play and not just sit on the sideline. I wasn't going to pass it up. But the fact that, you know, Coach Bull, he grew up like, I think 15 miles from where I grew up. The fact that he could just relate, and he knew where I was coming from. He knew what kind of players could come out of this state, you know, guys that are going to come in and work hard. Maybe they're not ready to play day one like a 5-star recruit, but they're going to come in and work, and they're going to give you everything you have. And I think he kind of saw that from his days at Nebraska, and you know that was big for me. I obviously was kind of drawn to NDSU because of Coach Bull and those other reasons I said.
You Nebraska guys have some special connection. I still remember the time when me, you, and Fred were walking to position meetings. We walked right by Coach Bull's office. Coach Bull's like, "Hey,
Great
Kyle."
Story.
Okay, you know, so Kyle, you know, pops in the office. Me and Mike go sit down. And 5 minutes later, Kyle finally walks in, you know, for a meeting and sits down with a slice of pizza. We're like, "What the hell?" He's like, "Yeah, Coach Bull came and gave me a slice of pizza." I'm like, "Oh, so just Nebraska people get slices of pizza up here? This isn't fair." And I don't think he knows what it even is, but.
Yeah, the best part was that I was walking directly with you guys, and he singled me out. Well, and the story was it was Valentino's Pizza. Valentino's started in Nebraska, so I guess if there's a reason, there you go. It'd be like if someone pulled you aside to show you some Viking stuff or something cool, you know.
I mean, I get bringing Mike in because
guy.
Like 4% over his body fat at the time, so he probably shouldn't be eating that.
That didn't help. That also didn't help.
Mike Hardy tells that story a lot differently. he has a little animosity about that particular event.
He was not happy. Let's just put it that way. Yeah, he was less than thrilled because Mike wanted a piece of pizza, regardless of where it came from or whatever.
He wanted any type of food, Taco Bell. He was gonna have something.
Mike had to be one of the few players to come in and work out as hard as he did for that period of time and put on body fat like the way he did. His Taco Bell diet, his first year in there was truly remarkable. I was
gonna say when you're fueled by Taco Bell, it's kind of hard. You can't outwork that diet.
So since we're on the, you know, like you said, you're a Class B, Nebraska, small town. You know, and Cole and I talked about this earlier in the week when we knew that you were coming on. And in my opinion, you know, I haven't been around football a ton. Obviously, 7 years at NDSU, 1 year at Jamestown, 2 years at Moorhead, and then I got out of it. But you were hands down the most competitive person I've ever been around. And I'm not just saying that. I mean, your work ethic and your motor, and exclude the games. I mean, if fans could see how you practiced, I mean, you're already one of, you know, the greats, right? We know that. And I know you're a very humble person. You're smirking a little bit, but
you're making me sweat over here, Joey.
Yeah, no, but if fans could see how you practice, their level of respect for you would even go up even further if it's possible. And I truly want to know, where did that come from? Because that is not something that is ordinary or common. You know, that is an extraordinary thing. And you were essentially uncommon amongst uncommon people. And, you know, that North Dakota State defense that you were a part of, you know, essentially the best defense in the country every year. And like I said, you were uncommon amongst, you know, the best. So where did that all come from?
It's probably a good question. My mom, she's right upstairs. Go ask her about that. But when I guess I've just always been that way to some sense. You know, I always tell people I was the kind of kid, you know, you playing wiffle ball in the backyard for a game that doesn't matter. And if I lost, when I was younger, I'd go crying inside because I lost. So like part of it, I would say, is just how I am, how I'm wired, how God made me. That's just kind of how I was as a kid. The other thing to me was I never wanted anyone to be able to like, even if it was practice, no one's watching, there's no fans, but I didn't want someone to be able to, like, I beat Kyle on that rep, or like Coach Coop or whoever your position coach. I didn't want them to be able to turn on the film and point me out and call me out in front of everyone and be like, look, Kyle didn't hustle on this play. I never wanted anyone else to have anything to say about me. And there was just always that desire of whether like I said, I don't care if it's a game. I don't care if we're not keeping score. This is just a practice. This is just a rep. I want to win. I want to be able to say, I won that rep. I won that play. We won that practice, whatever it is. And that was kind of what fueled me. And I knew practice is where you get better, right? Everyone talks about it, but if you truly don't attack it, and that mentality, I can't take 100% credit for that. That came from NDSU. That came from being around Coach Kramer and Coach Bull and everyone, all the other teammates we had, and that desire to, we're going to be different and we're going to work every single day at practice. And that is how we're going to win national championships, not from just showing up on Saturday. For listeners that don't know or aren't that familiar with the program, NDSU defense, the coaches do, it's called the takeaway chart. And it's essentially a big competition where you can gain points. This is during practice. You get 2 points for a sack, 1 point for a TFL. You get 4 points if you have an interception or a forced fumble or a fumble recovery, 1 point for a knockback tackle. But you can also lose points, and the way you lose points is for a loaf. Okay, and a loaf is, everyone should know that term, but it's essentially not sprinting to the football. There's different terms for it. Turning down a hit's a loaf, and you get -2 for that. Did you ever have a loaf in your 5 years? I definitely did. Now, those were all debatable, and I feel like you could make arguments for them. And obviously there's the days, and Cole and Joe, you know this too, but there's the days when it's, 90 degrees out and you have 3 DNs fall out and now there's 2 of you. And Coach Bull doesn't cut down reps regardless of how many people are on the field. So you're taking like every rep, or you're going like 8 on, 2 off type of deal. So yeah, there was probably a few, but that was another reason why, I'm not going to be the guy that loses the D-line points. Like, that's not going to be me. I'm going to be out there. I'm trying to get 0 loaves.
Yeah, I think the D-line dominated that competition year in, year out, Joey. Your DBs we're always complaining that we had too many opportunities, but you guys were just loafing all over the field. It's not our fault. I
brought the takeaway competition to Jamestown as the D coordinator there, and to Moorhead State, and the D-line won in both spots. So it's got to be somehow.
It's the sacks. It's the sacks.
It's got to be. It's got to be geared towards the D-line winning, because when I was kind of making the final decision on who to loaf and who to give points to, I was trying to get them DBs up there, and it's like impossible.
It's a lot of opportunities, obviously, being close to the football, and you get a lot of really tired offensive linemen in fall camp. You can kind of run around and bank on some extra points.
So, Kyle, talk a little bit about your transition from your senior season. Obviously, you wrapped up, you were a captain, all the accolades. You finished perfect with 4 national championships, 1 every year that you played. Talk about your transition, to the East-West Shrine Game, then to the NFL Combine, and then leading up to draft day, and then kind of your rookie year and experience, everything like that.
Yeah, it was an interesting transition, to say the least. There really wasn't a transition. It happened all in literally one day. So we win the national championship, 4th one, I go out to dinner. I had a bunch of family there, go out to dinner, and then I literally go straight to the airport that night and flew straight to Florida with John Crockett. He was in that game too. And I think, 2 days later we had 2-a-days or something like that. So that part was tough. It really was, because obviously, you guys know how hard we work at NDSU, and all this, you put all this in, and like you said, you come out perfect, 4 national championships. Like, you just want to take like a breath, just a little, just a tiny breath,
enjoy it
for a little bit, enjoy it. And you couldn't do that. And so that was tough, but I knew it was obviously for a good reason. It was a kind of a bigger purpose. So I went straight there. That was interesting, to say the least, but it's, it's meetings, it's practice, it's, and the practice is more important than the game and all that. And then I go from there directly to Arizona and immediately start training, which I always tell people, you're really become a track athlete at that point. You're training specifically for events. You're not trying to become a better football player. so and then you go from Arizona straight to Indy, and then Indy, the whole combine, again, that was that's interesting, I guess, to say the least. You stay in like this tiny hotel. It's actually like a little train car with a roommate you've never met before. You're getting up at 4 a.m. for drug tests. You're doing medical exams. You do all this stuff in the first 2 days, and then at the very end, 2 or 3 days, in the very end, now they expect you to go out and perform at your very best. So I mean, it was a grind, and a lot of people don't see that part. But from there, I go straight back to Arizona, train a couple of days, go back to Fargo, and then you have the pro day, and then the whole draft. So I mean, people talk about the grind of that, of that pre-draft process, and it truly is, because you're just bouncing back and forth, and you're doing all these different things that you've never done before. So once you kind of get, once I finally did get drafted, you finally know where you're going. It was almost like a breath of fresh air just to know what you're doing. And, obviously I got to go to San Diego, which was a pretty cool opportunity for me.
Kyle, touching on that, the combine thing, pro day, what was maybe the hardest part during that whole process for you? Was it stressing about running your 40 time? Was it meeting coaches and, wondering, what they're trying to break down, what questions they're trying to ask you to, get inside your head a little bit, or during that whole process, what was like maybe that part that, bugged you the most or was the hardest on you?
Yeah, I think, there was so many meetings with scouts, with coaches, with, I think, just the constant scrutiny going against yourself, and you're constantly trying to become better. But like I said, you're also training for a track event, especially at the beginning, and then you're training for pro day, which is specific. So I think the constant scrutiny, and then just not knowing where you're going, not knowing if you're going to do all this, and maybe it's not going to work out. So at NDSU, you work out in the off season, there's going to be a spring ball. You're going to be on the team. Exactly what you're doing this for. But just not knowing where you're going to go, and not to jump ahead, but it's kind of funny because it's kind of come full circle. That's basically what I'm doing right now.
Right. How was your first, couple of years as a Charger? Because at what point did you was there a coaching change? Or was it just Gus Bradley that came in? Or there was
between years 2 and 3, we had basically an entire coaching change. Yep.
Okay. How did you like it? I guess first talk about, your first couple seasons, and then talk about that transition.
Well, the first couple of years, I always tell people it's, we thought college football was a business, and it is to a certain extent, but you really kind of felt that in the NFL. And I missed that, I always tell people like my why, and I loved playing for my teammates, for you guys, for the university, for the community. You kind of miss that a little bit, especially in a place where I went in San Diego, where you didn't even know if the team was going to be in that same city the next year. As soon as I got there, we were basically in a transition. So that part was hard for me. I got hurt early on in my rookie year. I had some early success, but I got hurt early on in my rookie year. And, obviously that brings in some self-doubt. You're not playing as well. We weren't winning games. We won 4 games my first year, 5 games my second year. And then you went through a whole transition, and it was tough. I'm not going to lie. It wasn't like NDSU was easy and peachy and everything was great. Obviously we bust our butts there to make happen what happened. But we were winning football games. We were winning national championships. We were seeing, the reward for your hard work. And that just wasn't the case in the NFL. And it was just so much different. I'm living in California. So, I'm not going to paint this picture that it was just, this great experience. People think you're in the NFL, there's money and there's fame and there's all this. It's the greatest thing ever. It wasn't. It was hard. It was hard work, but you finally, we do go through a coaching change. We get a little bit better my 3rd year, and then that 4th year, at least we got to see somewhat of a reward to finally make the playoffs. Hear about it for the whole career. Finally make the playoffs and get a win in playoff game. So it was a bit of a roller coaster, mostly downhill at the beginning, but it was obviously it's an experience that not a lot of people get to live. So it was good and bad. There was ups and downs to all of it.
It's interesting that you basically said you had the same experience as what Billy Turner said 2 weeks ago. Billy mentioned that at one point in Miami, he was on the phone with his dad, basically completely breaking down to him, saying how he doesn't want to play football anymore. And this isn't how football should be. And and obviously this question's for you, but I think a lot of that has to do with North Dakota State and just how close we were, specifically your class and my class. I mean, it wasn't kind of like we were separate at all. I mean, we were kind of just like one big class. Like we were all kind of best friends with each other. And Billy mentioned like the locker room in Miami. It was just everyone was kind of out for themselves. Was that a similar experience then?
Yeah, I think, and I think Billy would probably agree with this. There is that sense, but I don't think, I'm not saying that as a knock on those people. It's just kind of the way the NFL is and the way that it's set up. When we were in college, everyone's in similar stages of life, right? Everyone lives in a similar area. Everyone, maybe you have a girlfriend, but almost no one's married. Almost no one has kids. You're all going to the same school. You're doing the same thing, even off the field, basically. That's just not the case in the NFL. And I think, I didn't have the same situation as Billy, but there was a couple times myself, after a game we lose again, I play horribly. I go back to my part. I live by myself, and you're just at home, like questioning, like, why am I doing this? Like, do I even want to do this type of thing? And you start to doubt yourself. Am I good enough at there's that hard part. And I think it's because, like you mentioned, Joey, like at NDSU, we went through some hard times. It was hard work. There was good times, there was bad times, but you felt like you were in it together. Like, as much as it sucks for me, it sucks for this other guy. It's just different in the NFL. You just don't have that same sense of community and that same sense of like everyone's in the same situation as I am.
Right. Did you have anyone that you could, as a Charger early in your years that you kind of connected with right away, and you guys kind of both felt like, hey, we're coming from college, we're young, and they probably felt the same thing. You're kind of thrown into an uncomfortable situation, and you're told to perform at literally the highest level.
Yeah. I had a good buddy. He actually just left the Chargers. He's going to be on the Titans now. But his name's Nick Dzubnar, and he played at Cal Poly. So he came from an FCS school. He was the only difference between him and I was that he actually took the harder route. He was undrafted. He was an undrafted guy, and basically made the team, playing special teams and just working his butt off. So I think him and I kind of connected immediately, other than the fact that, I was drafted, and there is that stigma, like in the NFL, the drafted guys it's kind of like the full scholarship versus the walk-on guy type of thing. Like people think, you're handed more. But I was later, I was fifth round. So I still had to, kind of work my way up as well, just like he did. So yeah, we kind of connected instantly that way. And that it was awesome having him around, and both being linebackers. We actually, both our birthdays were a day apart as well. So we kind of got made fun of a lot in the locker room for that fact as well.
Talking about the transition from year 2 to year 3 with the coaching change, I remember we were all together up in Grand Forks for an Eric Church concert when I think you were kind of finding out that Gus Bradley was going to be your new defensive coordinator. And you were going from a 3-4 scheme where you kind of fit perfectly as that outside linebacker. And then Gus is a 4-3 guy. And I remember I believe your quote was, we probably all had a couple of drinks at the time, but I don't know, he's probably going to cut me. How did it end up? Obviously he didn't cut you, but how did it end up working out with Gus coming in there?
Yeah, it actually worked out pretty well because, I think, what you're referring to is we just found out we're a 4-3, and I don't know what kind of – when I think 4-3, I thought of like what we played at NDSU. You have three – basically they're all inside linebackers, even though back in they'd move around, and then you have 4 down. Well, we were less of a 4-3 and more of a hybrid. So I actually found a position that was similar to what I did. It was more of being a linebacker than an edge guy. You were an edge guy, but you also got to move around. You got to drop into coverage a little bit more than I did my first years in San Diego. So it actually worked out well, and that position was really good for me. Now we didn't, as you guys know, and watching the NFL game, it's a lot of nickel, it's a lot of dime personnel. We didn't play a lot of base, so I didn't get to do it a ton, but that position worked out well for me. And playing for Gus was awesome. Obviously, just hearing about him at NDSU for basically it feels like the day I stepped on campus, you hear about Gus. and just how awesome a guy he was, and everything that people said about him was true. And I always tell people, obviously he's a really good coach, X and O's, but I think he understands. Every coach understands the mental side of the game to some point. He understands it, I think, better than anyone that I've been around, and I think and then obviously just his personality, but that's just kind of what makes him unique.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough. I believe it was 2014. Gus came back to Fargo to speak with the team. And prior to that, he sat down just with the coaching staff. And he talked with us for about 2 hours. And I'm not exaggerating this at all. It felt literally like 2 minutes. And the best way, when I tell people about Gus Bradley, and the best way to describe him is if you didn't know anything about football, you didn't know who he was, and you just had a conversation with him, you would know he's successful at whatever he chooses to do in life. That dude is doing it at a very high level. And despite being removed from North Dakota State's defense for a number of years, his stamp is still implemented all over that program. And we've talked a lot about competition with you, and one of the biggest things that he brought to North Dakota State was the levels of a competitor. And it was something that the first time I heard was Scotty Hazelton talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it hit me, so the levels of a competitor are the lowest levels of survivor. Okay. That's someone that does just enough to get by. The next level is a competitor. And this is all Gus Bradley, by the way. This isn't that he created this. The next level is a competitor, and that's someone that's motivated by external factors. So I want to be the starter. I want to get my name in the paper. I want to be the Buck Buchanan Award winner. The level above that is true competitor, and that's someone that is motivated by internal. So someone that doesn't care about their stats or getting their name in the paper. They just want to be the best that they can be because that's who they are and that's what drives them. And then the last one is a dominant competitor, and they have all the characteristics of a true competitor, but they're able to raise everyone's level of play. And for me and Cole, I'd like to hear how, you viewed this and you put yourself. I realized immediately I was just a survivor, like 100%. As soon, I think, being a coach, one of the worst things is when a player isn't really in touch with reality. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't realize where they're at. And for me, it clicked right away. And one of the things that Coach Hayes at the time was talking about was how it's a decision you can move up the ladder. You can be a competitor. You can also move down the ladder. I mean, you can be a true competitor for a while, and then all of a sudden you start getting these stats, and now you're just a competitor, or you can be a survivor going up to a competitor. How did that impact both of you? And next question would be, did Gus have anything new, kind of? But first, Cole, just kind of touch on the levels of a competitor.
I think I saw Kyle and I being on position meeting rooms, coming up. I think we both kind of maybe transitioned through the process, maybe in similar ways. When I first got there, I think you're swimming a little bit and you're just trying to survive. And, we're both very, very competitive guys. And, we were, trying as hard as we could, trying to figure things out and, trying to find, our spot on the team. And, but at the same time, you're like, I'm not a senior, I'm not even a junior. I'm a sophomore and we're freshmen. Kyle and I both played, very prominent roles, our first year there or our first year playing. And, both of us we both redshirted and played, as starters immediately. I think that rubbed some of the older, upperclassmen the wrong way to saying, well, what's this young guy doing? But I think we both took it to saying, hey, I'm here. I came to North Dakota State to win championships. I came to North Dakota State to be really, really good. I came here to, build this culture and get it back to where it needs to be. And I think both of us, look at things the same way. As if I play really good and if I can lift my teammates to play really good, we're going to win a lot of games. And both of us really, really enjoy winning. I really enjoy winning. My first year here, we went 3-8 as a redshirt, and it was miserable. I don't lose well. It's awful. My first year playing, we lost Eastern Washington in overtime. And to see the seniors, bawling their eyes out, fully grown men bawling their eyes out in the locker room because we lost a football game that ended their career was a feeling I never wanted to ever feel again. And I think that's where for me, we're kind of switched. And it's like, hey, if I can give everything I have and pick up the teammates around me to have everything they have, and find a way to lead the guys around me and help lead this team and show effort in the weight room, in the classroom, and everywhere, day in, day out, this team will go places. And I think a lot of guys on our team, kind of found their roles, because there was plenty of guys that were just surviving on our team. There was plenty of guys that were competitors and true competitors, and very few guys on our team, I think, finally ascended to be those, dominant guys and guys that really carried it. And I think that's why Kyle was a captain. I think, myself as a captain, Billy was a captain. A lot of these guys, they separate themselves to become team leaders, and guys follow along with them, and they become the alpha male in a room full of a bunch of alphas, which is a really difficult thing to do. And when Coulter Boyer left and graduated, I looked at the room and said, hey, this is my room now. This is my defensive line to run and take to the next level. And I think when I left, Kyle probably felt that same way. It's like, hey, we will kind of bounce off each other, and if one of us is having a bad day, the other guy can pick it up, but that guy's not there anymore. And I think that's what maybe helped Kyle elevate as well. I'll let you kind of touch on it through your college career and maybe even your pro career as well.
Yeah, I think I was similar. When I was the same way as you, Joey. When I first heard that, it kind of like hit me like, wow, I've never even thought about this. Like I always knew, like I told you, I always knew it was competitive. Like my parents used to people talk about how competitive I was, but you didn't really know what that meant as far as actually being a real competitor. I would say there was definitely days, especially that first year, that first fall camp. I didn't really touch on that, but like I was for sure swimming. I didn't know what I was doing. I came into NDSU as a linebacker. You guys know. And I mean, and you also know football is like a different language. So when I got there and you think football, and then Scotty Hazelton starts talking about alignment and black and Reggie on the back, and then you got to open up this way and you're dropping cover two. And I'm just like, what's cover two? Like, I think I know that from Madden, so I was for sure a survivor. I think at the beginning, I was literally just trying to survive. I would like to say, when I was actually on the field competing, I was at least somewhat of a competitor. I was still getting after it there, but like day in and day out, just like the meeting part of things, I was for sure just trying to survive. And I wouldn't even say I was, you guys know me, I'm a little less vocal and a little more lead by example. And I wouldn't say I became an actual dominant competitor until I was a senior and I was a captain, and I felt like I could actually take that role. And I felt like people actually looked up to me, that kind of thing. That was kind of probably when I felt like, at least for a moment, I reached that highest level of competitor. And again, and when I got to the NFL, it probably dipped a little bit. Again, your things are new, and you just don't feel like you have that level of authority, or whatever you want to call it, to really affect guys. And especially in the NFL, when a lot of guys don't want to hear what you have to say as a rookie, as second, whatever you are, they have their kind of thing. They got there one way and you got here another, and just kind of stick to what they're good at. So, It definitely switched. But no, I would say, to answer your second question, Joe, I don't think Gus actually came in, and when he would give talks, they were very similar to what I heard at NDSU, or I actually had heard him talk. I was actually, my buddy Nick, who I talked about earlier, I was actually finishing some of the slides before Gus would say that. I mean, he'd be like, look at him, what the hell? Like, how do you know this? How do you know the level of a competitor? Like, what are you talking about? So he was very consistent in that, and he was also very consistent. What Scotty was good at too was coming up with stories that may or may not be true.
The best. There was nothing better than a Scotty Hazelton Friday night meeting.
Oh man, those were the best stories. And at the end of those meetings, it was fantastic. Kyle, what was your maybe welcome to college football moment? And if you have one for the NFL as well, I think we all maybe have that moment. But what was it for you for college and then for the NFL?
When I think of college, I don't know if there was one single one. Probably I think getting a real ass chewing from a coach. I got you and me both got some from Coop. I got some from Fuchs when I was on the scout team. Coach Vegan gave me a couple, but I think it was just actually, I was gonna say spilling all the fullbacks. People listening don't know, spilling a fullback, basically taking a temple shot from a fullback over and over. But I think the real life college football moment has to be running those three patterns with Kramer, which they don't do anymore. But when you're
that's day one of fall camp.
Exactly, it's day one, and you're a freshman, and you just left your parents for the first time. You're out on your own. You've barely moved into the dorm, and they bring you in to run these patterns that you don't even know what they are. Well, maybe you've ran a couple at that point. And just to see people falling out and just to kind of and then you go and like after that you still have meetings till like 10 p.m. I think just like right then, day one, it was kind of like, boom, wow, we're not in high school anymore. For the pros, it was different because when you think of welcome to college football, it's more like usually you getting laid out or something bad is happening to you. For the NFL, it was more like just kind of realizing what level you were at. For me, the one I always tell is just when I finally did get a chance to practice with the ones, and I'm lining up and there's Philip Rivers right in front of me, and he's barking out signs and he's calling me out as part of the defense. That was kind of just like kind of a shock moment. And then lining up against Larry Fitzgerald in my first preseason game, a guy who was on the cover of NCAA Football 2005. For those who played that game, which I used to play all the time, that was kind of another like wow moment. Like, well, I'm actually playing against this guy now.
That's awesome. So let's fast forward a little bit because we're winding down. What was the main reason, thought process, decision in hanging him up a year ago?
Yeah, well, I mean, I kind of touched on it a little bit, and just the fact that the NFL is not what everyone thinks it is, and the fact that it's still a grind. It's you're making more money. Yeah, I mean, there's the prestige or the perceived prestige about being in the NFL, but it wasn't all that for me. And I think I really started to lose. I started to lose the love of the game, and then I think I was starting to just get burnt out a little bit. And that started probably before year 4, but it obviously kind of hit a peak at year 4. I wasn't. I know it's kind of a lame not excuse, but I wasn't enjoying it. I wasn't having fun. Yes, the money was great, but I was a little bit burnt out on it. I really think I was. And to me, and what I told people, like, I could have signed with the team. I could have went and half-assed it and kind of see what happens. But that's just not who I was. And we talked about, competing before and how I was. Like, if I wasn't going to go somewhere and be 100% bought in, I just didn't want to do it. And that's just kind of who I am as a person. I just wasn't going to do it. So that, coupled with the fact, I didn't make the decision until free agency was actually started. I was training. I was trying to, keep my options open, and my body it felt terrible. It really did. I got beat up. I got beat up my rookie year, which I mentioned I was pretty good years 2 and 3. And then year 4, I had some knee issues, I had a hip issue, I had a chest issue, and it wasn't going away. So I'm kind of looking at that from both angles and saying, all right, are you in this mentally 100%? Probably not. Physically, do you think you can still do this at 100%? Not right now. Those two kind of came together, and I couldn't do it. I really couldn't. I needed to get away from the game, and obviously that's what I did.
When you made that decision to retire, did you have it in the back of your mind that you were leaving the door open to make a comeback? Was that the plan at the time, or at the time you were, I'm moving back to Fargo, North Dakota, and this is where I'm going to start the new chapter of my life?
I would say I didn't know I was going to move back to Fargo. I had no idea what I was going to do. That kind of came about randomly. That was this guy in the top left corner, Cole, just being like, hey, well, you can move here if you want. And I was kind of like, well, I don't know what else to do. So sure, I'll come back to Fargo. But I don't want to say I knew 150% that I would never play again, but I was not planning on coming back. I was assuming, like, if I say no now, if I say no to a team now, like, that's it. That's going to be it. And I had no intention of coming back. I kind of always knew in the back of my mind, like, there's a chance if I ever did have a change of heart, like there'd be a chance. But I always thought it'd be more of like a mid-season thing, like week 8, someone needs a linebacker, and they give me a call, and then I'm kind of forced to make that decision. I never I can't say I saw it going the way that it did.
What's changed? Obviously now you're training again. You're trying to make the comeback. What changed mentally?
Well, ultimately, I missed it. I did. I missed that sense of purpose of being a football player, of doing something that you love, something that something that you're good at. I missed that. And like I said, I really think I was burnt out. I still have, people probably think, oh, you regret, retiring, last year. Like, no, I don't. I really don't. I felt like I needed that. And, I kind of made a decision finally for the first time in my life. Well, what seems like it was just for me. Like I knew some people weren't going to like it. Some people were going to question me. Some people were going to think I was dumb. But is what I wanted to do. So I kind of came around, this second time, and I ultimately wasn't happy, the last year with just trying to find a purpose, trying to find something else, a direction for my life. And I couldn't find one. And I just kept coming back to football, and I just kept going back and forth in my mind, obviously all year of, like, did I make the right decision? And I was kind of tired of wondering. And then the second part was I kind of liked the challenge. I was working out and stuff before I made this decision, but this wasn't the same, and then I kind of thought about playing again, and like having a challenge, having a goal to work towards again, like it motivated me. It kind of sparked some energy in me. And I was like, I want to try this again. I talked to my agent. It was kind of like a joking thing at the time. And when he was like, yeah, no, I think there'd be some teams interested, that kind of got the ball rolling. And I did not foresee coronavirus happening, and that may or may not have affected my decision. I don't know, but that has made the decision, or not the decision, just the whole situation that much more interesting.
With places not open, obviously a lot of free agents still out there. I mean, there's big time free agents up, like Cam Newton still, Jadeveon Clowney, big massive guys on the free agent market. Do you think with, obviously limited probably training camp, no OTAs, a lot of these rookies aren't going to get a lot of practice? Do you think a lot of teams are maybe going to lean? So, hey, Kyle maybe missed a year, but he knows how to play it in the NFL. Do you think that almost maybe benefits you? Obviously, you got to get in and work out for somebody and show you can still play.
Yeah.
But you think that, that part that having experience is going to benefit you at this point?
I do. I mean, I would hope so. I mean, I'm just trying to think, back when I was a rookie, if I could have just showed up in July with 2 or 3 weeks of practice or whatever it's going to be, and then no break coming, and just how successful I would have been as a rookie, and I just don't think I would have been. So there's definitely some positives of bringing in a veteran like myself, or like the number of other people out there that you not only do certain defensive schemes. I've played in 2 different defensive schemes, and a 3-4 and a 4-3, but just knowing the NFL lifestyle and how to handle it and how to maneuver it, and kind of get over some of the mental hubs that come with that. I'm hoping that teams can look at that as a positive, and ultimately I'm just hoping that these facilities can open up, and I can just show what I can do. And if people still don't want me, then I'm at peace with the decision. I gave it a shot, but I just want a chance. And hopefully that'll happen here soon.
If you don't get signed, your janitor position at Dynasty is still available. You can come back to your employment there, and we'll pay you.
You didn't fire me yet?
Yeah, you're not fired yet, but you're getting close.
All right. Well, I mean, hey, with everything going on, you probably need a good janitor, so yeah, I'll be available.
How has the process been? Obviously, you mentioned facilities are closed down and everything. What's kind of been the free agency market like for you right now?
Well, right away, so it's kind of good and bad, this whole coronavirus thing for me, because I kind of made this decision pretty quickly. And I was in shape, but I wasn't, able to run around and do things in cleats and do actual football movements and things like that. So I think right away, there was a couple teams that wanted to fly me in. And, I think the day before I made this decision was like when the NBA shut down. And then like everything after that, obviously it was just multiplied, and now everything's shut down, right? So there was a couple teams like right away that wanted to bring me in, but as soon as everything shut down, it was pretty universal or unanimous, at least from what I was hearing from my agent. Like, if they can't see you, they're not going to sign you. Like, there's, they know you retired because you were, physically you were hurting a little bit. So there's the injury aspect, which some of the guys like Cam Newton, Jadeveon Clowney, they're dealing with as well. So you got the injury aspect, and then the fact that you didn't play last year. Like, if they can't see you, they're not going to sign you. So, that part's been kind of tough, but at the same time, it's given me some time to get back into somewhat of football shape. It's given me time to, get my body right and to hopefully be ready for this opportunity. Whereas, like, if I would have went in for a workout right away, I still think I would have done fine, but I may not have been as prepared as I am now.
I thought it was interesting what you said earlier when you were talking about your decision to retire, how it was really one of the first decisions, the first times in your life you made a decision for yourself. And then you mentioned how people thought you were going to regret it and this and that. And my initial reaction was, that's so silly, because I knew for a fact, like, if you didn't want to play, you needed the break, and there was no regret at all. Like, obviously you're burnt out, and football is a violent game played by men. And if you're half in, half out, I mean, that's not going to end well for anybody. Moving forward to now, this is obviously another decision that you're making for yourself, and you're taking a risk, you're taking a chance. This is uncomfortable. You don't know how this process is going to go. Is the next step get into a facility, and what teams have you been talking to? And as soon as you can do that and you can work out for them, you know, obviously you think that's going to get the ball rolling?
Yeah, I really do. I think, like I said, there was more teams interested at first, and even, one that kind of came back was the Detroit Lions, which, that was probably who I was going to sign with if I did play last year, which kind of surprised me. I kind of thought I burned that bridge, but they were interested at first. But I'm kind of obviously I don't know. Nothing's been done on paper, but the Houston Texans have been very interested. One of my old linebackers coaches from my days in San Diego is now there. We got along really well. He liked the way I played, so hopefully that comes to fruition. But yeah, I just feel like if I can get in a facility, hopefully I don't leave without being signed. And then, I'm excited to take on this challenge again. I feel more motivated than I have in a while to play the game of football again. Like you mentioned, it's not an easy one. And if you're 100% right, if you're not in, it's not going to go good for you. It's not going to go good for your team. So I'm excited to just go in and give it all for 1 year and then just see what happens. If I only play one more year, I'm happy with that. It's not, I'm not going back in this to go have a Hall of Fame, a career, whatever it is. I'm going to give it all for 1 year and give whatever team gives me a chance, everything I have, and then, let the chips fall where they may.
Awesome. That's pretty sweet. With all this going on, obviously if you sign with the Detroit Lions, you know that you're going to get beat up by Kirk Cousins and Dalvin Cook two times a year. The Vikings are still coming. Joey and A-Rod will probably beat up on you guys too. So it might be tough. Might want to stay out of the NFC North. We got
okay. I'll make sure just to avoid all NFC North teams.
Yeah, let them know, because I feel bad having to cheer against you 2 times a year, but I would have to do it still. Sorry, Kyle.
Trust me, I know your loyalty lies with Vikings far more than it does with me, so I've already accepted that.
You've seen the moments on Sundays where I'm sitting and watching TV on the couch. I think I became an Oakland Raiders fan at some point last year.
Talk about positives being retired this last year. That was one of them. Getting to see Cole watch Vikings on Sunday when they're not playing well and just completely abandoning ship, and just jumping on another team's bandwagon for like 15 minutes.
We might have to set up like a Zoom camera or something just on me for the game. Joe can break down my emotional roller coaster or something, and then you can relive it yourself. I'm sure you'll miss that, because hopefully you'll be playing on Sundays.
Yes. The last question that I had, and it's something I wish I would have asked Billy and Carlton, but whenever we were in fall camp, whoever the head coach was, Coach Bull, Coach Kleiman, now Coach Entz does it. They always bring back former players, and one of the things that always gets asked is, what does Bison pride mean to you? And I don't know if I can think of somebody that, epitomizes or Bison pride more than you do. So, what does Bison pride mean to you?
Yeah, so actually, Coach Entz asked me to come talk to the team just before this last year, and obviously that was one of the things he asked me to talk about. And I think my answer is always a little bit different every time I try and answer this, but it always comes around the one kind of central thing. To me, Bison pride, it kind of just comes out of you. It's just this feeling. There's this feeling about just being so proud of your university, of your football team, of being a part of your teammates, that it's kind of hard to describe. But it always centers around the same theme of, it's something that's bigger than yourself, right? You feel that pride for the university because the groundwork that's been laid before you to create this opportunity you have now. and you feel a responsibility to go out and play as hard as possible, to do everything possible to win, to show just to show gratitude to what those guys have done. And that's kind of what it's always meant to me. It's something that's bigger than yourself, and you feel that responsibility to kind of represent your university well, because that's what people have done before you, and you owe that to them. So that's always kind of what I come around when I talk about Bison pride.
To kind of go back on a quote from MJ from you guys last weekend, you put in so much work. MJ said he owed it to the fans that are going to pay for 3 hours. I think a lot of people think of Bison pride, in that thing. We owe it to our teammates to put that work in for those 3 hours. And I'm going to miss watching the Last Dance, the last few episodes here, because you won't be home tonight. But what have you? Obviously we weren't alive during this, MJ run. I mean, we were alive, but we're just babies at this point. Watching this documentary, obviously he has control over it, so it's going to be maybe a little bit more pro MJ. But through this whole Last Dance thing, what stood out to you most about that? I mean, I just want to touch on that. We've touched on it with everybody, and you're obviously a big MJ guy yourself.
Yeah, I've been watching the clock to make sure I'm not going to miss the documentary tonight. But
21 minutes, we're good. 21 minutes, I got the clock.
You guys know I'm a big Kobe fan, and obviously he's kind of cut from the same cloth as MJ. But you're right. I was too young to remember, just how he was as a person. When you're that young, you remember he won a lot of games and he was really good. But I think the people that draws in fans to Kobe, and obviously to MJ before him, was their mentality. The Mamba mentality is talked about a lot. And I think MJ, obviously he doesn't have a cool catchphrase for it, but he was the exact same way. And people I think there's just something about someone who has a ton of talent, but still cares so much about winning that they will sacrifice everything, that they're going to be kind of an ass to their teammates sometimes, but they want to win that badly, and they bring that mentality every single day. I think there's something about that kind of, that hard-working mentality, that even though you have all this ability, I think there's something about that people love, because MJ was pretty much universally loved, at least from my standpoint. A lot of maybe some people like LeBron more, but everyone respected the way that he kind of went about it. Even if he was, maybe you look at it, he wasn't the best teammate at all times, he cared about winning. He was there to win, and that was his job. And this documentary's kind of brought that to light even more. So that's been cool to see. And if you're not going to ask, I'll answer it anyway. I think he is the GOAT. He's number one. I love Kobe to death. Kobe's by far my favorite, but I would put MJ at 2. But as far as who's the best, give me Michael.
Yeah,
we're in the same boat there.
He could play in any area. What he was able to do, and how athletically gifted he was compared to some of these guys, with how big were at that time and how physically he could play. Watching some of these videos of some of the things he did, it's just he would translate to any era and could play. And obviously LeBron could play in any era as well. There's a lot of guys that can play in any era, but just the way, like you said, the way he, carried his teammates, the way he did. Obviously everyone's like, oh, I couldn't win without Scottie Pippen. You can't win without a number 2 and a number 3 on your team. And Michael Jordan, lifted those players. He made them better. And yeah, I think it's hard to argue that he's not the greatest basketball player of all time. And it's I don't think it's a huge debate, and I think Joey will agree with that one.
One of my favorite quotes so far was when Roy Williams, he was just an assistant coach at North Carolina at the time, but he said something along the lines of, Michael Jordan is the only player he's ever been around that had the ability to turn it on and off. And then he said, but he never turned it off. And we're seeing it right now. We get to go in depth and see it all. But yeah, his competitiveness is just, him and Kobe, right, on just such another stratosphere. It's so cool. We love it. I can't believe it's over, because when it started, it was like, I just want to watch all 10 right now tonight. I don't care. I'll stay up. My son will wake up. We'll be good. But now it's like, I just want to keep it going.
Yeah, I think I saw I don't know who it was. Someone tweeted out, after episode 6 or 7 or whatever it was, 10 episodes isn't enough. And I was like, I can't anymore. Feels like we were just barely scratching the surface and we're already at episode 9. But it's been fun to kind of dive, because like you said, we we weren't we were little kids when all this was going on. So you feel like you remember a lot of it, but I didn't know the half of it.
Sounds like they had camera crews following Kobe for one of his last seasons or one of his seasons as well. And that's maybe the next project, which would be pretty awesome, pretty special. I'm sure MJ would have a little spot in that as well, because like you said before, they're cut from the same cloth. And I hope that's a documentary that's made sooner than later, because that would be another special one. But to wrap things up here, Kyle, thanks for joining us on the Dynasty Sports Podcast. Best of luck this season. Hope you get signed with the team. Hey, feel free to sign with the Vikings, and I can get your jersey. I'll hang it up on the wall downstairs. Maybe if you're nice enough to autograph it for me, that'd be appreciated.
We'll see. Thanks for having me on, guys, though. This was really fun. Appreciate it.